So it's setting up the meeting for Facebook Live. So as it's doing that, let's just get started. Good morning, everybody. I love all the the positivity there. I've got my joy cup this morning, so cheers to everybody. So I am delighted this morning to be speaking to everybody. We've got Lawrence that's going to be joining us, and of course Kent. And this is our Wednesday Master Action Call. We do it every Wednesday, and I like to quote Jim Trainer. It's our nuts and bolts of the business, right? Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, please make sure you're tuning into the Zoom calls each Monday, Wednesday, Friday. John Whitaker did a really good call. I started to listen to it yesterday again, and it's really about what we should be focusing on and not being distracted by all the craziness out there. And that's really what this group is about, is our scanner business. So it's a really good call. Listen back to it. It's a Healthcare Alliance Facebook page. And then of course, Lawrence does a nice job on Fridays rounding up the week with his leadership call, and always gives us some wonderful words of wisdom and very, very encouraging. Just also a little bit of housekeeping, you guys, bear with us right now. Sometimes with the Zoom, there's a lot of people now utilizing Zoom. And so when it comes to processing, sometimes it's taking a little bit longer for the video to process. But me and Scott will get these posted as soon as we can. So I think that was all. I'm just looking at my notes. So with that, Kent, I'm going to hand the call over to you and Lawrence, and I'm super excited that the name of this call for Jim, who's taking notes right now, it's called Curve Ball.
Thank you. And checking in to do a sound check. Are we good to go?
Good to go. Yes.
Okay, so on my screen, you can see at the moment the workflow, event cycle, and daily habits. And so when we look at the reason that we do this Wednesday call, which is increase our check, integrate the scanner into practices, create change and outcomes in patients, patient flow, the disease prevention process, and the ability to change lives through economics and disease prevention, there is a cycle. This is a business. This is a real business that creates real outcomes, both patient-wise and clinic income-wise. And when we work with doctors—
Kent, real quick, I'm sorry, we can't, did you do a screen share? I didn't mean to interrupt, but I can't see your screen. Can you see it, Lawrence? I'm not.
Yeah, we can see it.
You can? Okay, perfect. It must be because I've got Facebook Live going. Great. I'm glad that you guys can see it. Continue.
So,
sorry about that interruption.
Wendy, this is right off the workbook, and I would encourage everybody
Good.
on this call to pull out your workbook and look at it once a week, once a day, every hour, because it refocuses us on daily habits and workflow to create an event cycle that works. And to that end, we do these Wednesday morning calls. Now, these are meant to be focused, mastermind, master action calls, and we're here to make a difference. So with the unfolding of the events in our lives lately in our nation and the world, and we look at the daily habits and the ability to stay in the workflow and the event cycle, Wendy and I wanted to ask Lawrence, who's one of our respected leaders and does calls here, about how do we operate in the present environment? How do we stay on top of it and handle the curveball we've been dealt? And so I'm going to stop the share and bring Lawrence on, and let's talk about that, Lawrence, because we're all integrated in working together and working with our business. And I think it's really important to hear how you're promoting that today.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Ken. And Wendy, thanks. I'm very privileged and honored to be in front of everybody again. Thank you so much for listening to me. So there's one thing that we have to maintain in our minds at all times. And that's my little Bible here of Ogmandino. And I'd like to just say, the slaughterhouse failure is not in my destiny. I will persist until I succeed. You know, I jokingly say we've got to tattoo that on our foreheads and look in the mirror every day, because there are often times when we have challenges that deflate our emotion and make us not as enthusiastic about a particular day or a particular week or an event or whatever. So this is important because right now we've been served a really, really hard curve ball. In other words, we get used to and we get complacent in the routine of work that we've established for ourselves, and it becomes our comfort zone because that's what we've been to learn about and to live with. We like that. But then we get something like just happened in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, where we have a totally unexpected storm. And it's a tragic storm for a lot of people. Tragic storm. But the first thing I want to say is that above the storm, whatever the storm is, no matter how turbulent, no matter how bad the storm is, above the storm, the clouds, above the clouds of the storm, the sun is always shining. And we will come out of the storm. It'll take a bit of while, but we will come out of it. But we cannot lose sight of the fact that the sun is always shining, and even though we're in the pit of a storm, we've got a problem, but we're going to come out of it. So that's important because our morale is essential to help our attitude. There's a phone number 510996231. If you could put that. Who's that?
Oh, that is me. Is there background? That's interesting. I'm not saying anything. I'll mute myself.
Just that one. That's
wow.
It. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll mute myself. That's okay.
So the important thing is that our morale must always be, as far as I'm concerned, as far as I believe, our morale should always be really high, because that will dictate our attitude. If we have a really positive attitude and our morale is good, then we can look at the challenges, and the size of the challenge is directly proportional to the emotion with which we view it. If we see the challenge as a hell of a big challenge that, oh my gosh, well, it'll be that. Or you look at the challenge and say, all right, it's a challenge, now I'm going to fix it. That's what we'll do. So in this moment where we have all of this stuff going on, the uncertainty around us doesn't help us. It influences and makes us have stress. And stress is due to the uncertainty of the situation which we're facing, because nobody knows exactly what's happening, where we're going. No one knows. We've got an unseen enemy which is affecting everybody. So we can either hook into whatever you focus on grows. So you can either hook into that problem and say, woe is me, oh my gosh, how weird, it's the end of the world, I've never had this before, I don't know what we're going to do, oh my gosh. Or we can say, okay, I will not focus on the unknown, I will not look at the unknown, I will focus on what we know. I will focus on the positive things that we have, and I will make lemonade out of this situation of lemons. Actually, I love lemons, so I don't like to use that example, but we will make it happen. We'll make things happen. So when we look and we see the cloudiness, the darkness, okay, put that into a box on the side and say, okay, what have I got? We've got, nothing's changed with the incredible company we've got, with the science, the technology, the innovation, the passport to the future. That hasn't changed. The products, that haven't changed. We still have those. We have access to those. But we've also got access, like we have right at this minute, to technology, which allows us to be able to reach all types of all types of to reach all over the world if we want. People of all talents, of all persuasions, we can get. So we have the technology, and we have internet. It's going to be tried right now. I mean, in Argentina, in the last week, they haven't been able to even have internet because their internet power is limited. And with everybody being at home there too, they can't even get onto the internet most of the time. So, but we can. So, having said that we have the possibility, unlimited possibility of everything we have, then what do we say? What are our resources? Well, look in your phone. How many people do you have that you've connected? What are your connections? What are your contacts? How many expos have you done? You may have had one expo. You may have done several expos. If you look on your spreadsheet, if you have the spreadsheet or your CRM or your list of people, and you look in there and you say, well, oh my gosh, there's somebody I haven't spoken to for 5 years. My gosh, oh, look here, there's a whole bunch of people I haven't even spoken to for a long time. And if you start looking into those, then you'll see that, oh, I spoke to that guy 2 years ago. Yeah, I know. Okay, a lot happens in 2 years. 2 years ago, you speak to someone and it was not their 12 o'clock. They may have been undergoing a divorce or some other issue that's really detracting. You call them today and they'll say, oh my God, so pleased you called. So example, yesterday, Dan Burke called one of his ex-colleagues he hadn't spoken to for 5 years. The ex-colleague became the director of the company, did very well. And it turns out, and Dan didn't speak to him for 5 years. Turns out that Dan called him day before yesterday, and the guy had been fired. And Dan said, oh my gosh, this guy was phenomenal. So we did a 3-way with him. And right away, the guy said, oh my gosh, I got it. You guys have really got it all together. I wish I had this. And Dan said, well, you have. And right there, he was like the most enthusiastic, brand new recruit. But Dan knows the guy from beforehand. I'm trying to use an example where we know somebody and we know the talents of the people. They should know us. They should know whether we're credible. They should know whether we have integrity. Our track record should serve for something. So when you call someone, they're not going to just say, oh, yeah, I know what you are. They're going to say, oh my gosh, that's interesting. Tell me what you got. Tell me what you're doing. So revisit the people that you may not have spoken to for some time. And look over the lists of people that you've got. Look over all the expos you've done. Look at all the look in your phone. And even, let me give an example. My wife has 180 people that her family members. We do every 2 years, we have a family reunion in Pennsylvania, every 2 years. The last count was 180 people. I want to tell you that I still, to this day, have only spoken to one of those 180 people. One. That's the brother. The others, I haven't had time to get there. Because once you start talking to somebody and you learn how to delve into that person, for example, you might just find a number on the phone. And it's somebody you know, and it's somebody that you were at school with, somebody you met 10 years ago. Well, that person has kids, that person has family, that person has relatives, that person has moved, that person has another job, whatever. And you start delving into the people, into their what they're doing and who they have in their families, and suddenly you've got a whole treasure of people that you can um, you can touch through your friend, through the person you're talking to. So it's exciting times because we're now forced to stay home. Some of us, many of us, we're forced to stay home. What are we going to do with that time? Well, think of it. You've just eliminated a commute of X amount of time. So you've just gained more time by being able to stay home. We always say this is a business from home that we can do from home. And it is. But now do it. Do it. Distribute your time. It's not easy to go from 100 miles an hour out there to suddenly come to an abrupt halt and to have to introspect and retrospect and look around and say, oh my gosh, wait a minute, my routine is all gone. So set up a new routine. So set up all your new treasure of contacts. You've got them, you've still got them. Look into them and understand that the paradigm, there's been a fundamental paradigm shift in the lives of many people. Think about it. In the last week, I've had, I think, 60 some people that have called me that I had even forgotten about, that at some time I've talked to them and they were wanting me to refresh what we have because their circumstances have changed. Pharma reps, medical sales reps, think about that. Elective surgeries have all been reduced or eliminated. These guys are at home. They're not making any money. Now they need to make some money to maintain their standard of living because they've been used to making whatever money they were making in their respective professions and businesses. And suddenly, whoops, nothing coming in. What am I going to do? Think about it. Most people right now, when I say most, I don't want to say that, I'll say a lot of people right now are terrified because they've got no way of having an income. Many people now are looking and saying, what the hell am I going to do? What am I going to do for the next month, for the next week, for the next 3 months? So this is a time to reassess our own direction and to be able to say, my gosh, we still have another treasure trove of possibilities because the business is the same, but don't take it for granted. We've got the most incredible company with science, technology, innovation. That's something we've got. But we've always just taken it for granted. Oh yeah, we've got a bunch of scientists and oh yeah, we got Joe. Who's Joe? Dr. Joe Chang. He was one of the principal scientists at Merck where they developed Rapamune. These are really top people. Got Mark Bartlett. You know, Mark, oh yeah, Mark. No, Mark Bartlett, are you kidding? You know, he's an immunologist. He's one of 75 scientists. So reinforce your belief system. Reinforce the strengths that you have. Sorry, Kent, I don't know, maybe I'm rambling on.
So I love what you're saying, and the revisit these basic principles are so key. And I appreciate, love what you're focused on, because that's what we need right now, is to appreciate and get into action around this. So for those that are trying to help others, they're new to the business and they're reaching out, what started the conversation to make it normal and natural, for instance, with the person you were speaking about that was looking, but we don't realize people are looking. So for those on here that are trying to get out of their rut and pick up that 100-pound phone or pick up their iPhone and dial, how should they, start at the beginning with our basic principles? It's so simple and yet so difficult for many. And I love how you speak to it. Eat that frog. Go ahead.
That 100-pound phone could be the most horrible, poisonous frog that there is. It's horrible. Or it becomes the best asset you've got. Everybody goes around with their phones. It's like an appendix. But if you look at it as a, oh my God, I gotta make a call. That's where we say, but eat that frog. What does this mean? The crappiest thing you can look at is, for example, eat a frog. I mean, seriously? Well, this is the first thing you do in the morning, is eat that frog, because once you've eaten that frog, which is the hardest thing you have to do, that's the first one you do. Because once you've got over that one, everything else is easy. Everything becomes easy once you attack the biggest problem you got. And if the biggest problem is the phone, what am I going to say? What will they think of me? If I say this, what will they say? Who cares? Who cares? Just be authentic, be from the heart, be real, be genuine, be enthusiastic, but speak from the heart. We're trying to help people right now. And we've got another huge advantage. Yesterday, or on, when was it? I don't know, Monday night, somebody said, actually it was Mark. Mark was talking about something that he had heard that I said about was think out of the box. Well, Mark went out and bought $5,000 worth of product because he was thinking out the box. He was inspired. And he went along and he went to see some pharmacists. They're hurting. The pharmacists have been affected by the CVSs and the Walgreens. And those in turn have been affected by Amazon. So now everybody's in the same boat. We're in the big equalizer. Right now, the entire country, the entire planet is at a moment of the big equalizer. We're in the same crap as everybody else. We're all snorkeling in manure. But now we can take advantage of what we have. And we've got to look with enthusiasm to say, right, what have we got? How can we do it? So Mark thought out the box and he bought $5,000 worth of stuff, and he got, I think, 30 or 40 life packs sold like in 2 days.
So when you think about that, his getting into action and taking the workbook and following the daily steps and reaching out to people and starting conversations, it all begins at the beginning of eating the frog and actually doing what you're speaking to, because we all are touching daily people that want what we have, but no one knows what we have. It seems so simple, right? And yet we have this self-induced hypnosis of inaction and paralyzation, being paralyzed. So I love what your message is this morning. And it seems that we create our destiny and our future by the way we think and what we attract.
Yes, sir. Paralysis by analysis. Don't overthink stuff. Get off the thing and just move. So the company has the know-how. We have the know-who. Every single one of us has the know-who. All we got to do is put it together and bite that frog. Get over whatever the worst thing that you dislike about a day, whether it's getting up in the morning, whether it's going to the gym, whether it's whatever the thing is, that's the frog. Getting on the phone. And then don't overthink stuff. Paralysis by analysis. If I say this, he will or she will say that. How am I going to answer that? What will they think of me if I do this? Who cares? If you just, on Friday, I'm going to talk about something because I was heavily criticized for something I posted on my own Facebook. I said, thank you, coronavirus. I'm going to talk about that on Friday. And man, I got a lot of flack. My brother even called me all kinds of names and how dare I say such a thing. But there's a reason for that. Anyway, that's on Friday. But I'm just trying to say, if we really, really just get excited about what we have, nothing's changed. The environment has changed, but we haven't. Our tools haven't. The company hasn't. People now are looking. We've now multiplied the possibilities. Everybody you talk to is saying, you know, well, I'll give you a quick example. I spoke to my distributor in Italy, one of my executives in Italy, 3 days ago, and her name's Marinella. And I said, I had not spoken to Marinella for, I don't know, maybe a month. And I said, Marinella, how are you doing? She said, oh, I saw your post on about the coronavirus on your link today, on Facebook. And she said, oh, that was terrible for it. I understand, and you're absolutely right. She said, my mom, she lives in Treviglio, which is in Bergamo. They call it Bergamo on the news, but it's Treviglio, Bergamo. She said, my mom died last week. That was 5 days ago. My mom died a week ago, last week. And my husband, whose his name is Marco, he's a doctor. He's in a coma for the last week with coronavirus. Now, this is a guy who did missionary work all over Africa in the worst, most deplorable, horrible situations of the planet. That's where I met him 30 years ago, 40 years ago. They were missionaries in Africa. That's where I met them. The husband's in a coma for a week. She lost her mom a week before that. And she's looking and saying, where are we going? What's happening? My world has come apart. So the worst part is that the husband was telling her 2 weeks before that, because he's a doctor at a hospital there, that the most difficult thing he had to do was to decide who lives and who dies as a doctor, because they've only got so many beds. They've only got so much medication, whatever that is. So some of them they couldn't attend and said, just go home and, do the best you can, knowing it's a death sentence. That was something that the doctor was talking about 2 weeks before he got coronavirus. And then he was saying, and Marinella's telling me, the worst part is that you take the person to the hospital and you're not allowed in. She gets a report at 7 o'clock, 6:30 in the evening, every evening, to see if her husband's alive or dead or how he's doing, if he's still there. And if he dies, they're going to put him in a casket. The army's going to take the body out and cremate it, and they're never going to see him again. So put things into perspective. What I'm trying to say is, yes, there's a lot of stuff out there, very, very serious, horrible, bad news. It's a tragedy. It's a terrible situation. But we don't have to hook into that. Aware of it? Yes. Do we have to? We understand that it's bad, but don't extricate yourself from that and look at who you are. Look at your families. Look at your future. Look at your potential. Look at what you have. Look at what we've got. Look at the company. Be enthusiastic. Thank God where we are, and what we have. And we have what we have. So I'm just, I've shot all over the place, but go ahead, Ken. Sorry.
No, I love it because, being grateful for what we have actually sets the stage for creating our future based on where we're headed. And that's why I use vision boards. That's why I use a host of tools that you've spoken to this morning. I love what you do and how you do it. So this master action call is really over, but it's time for each and everyone on this call to take the information and the energy Lawrence has given us, and thank you so much for that, and integrate it into your teams. Get them into the workbook, get them into Eat the Frog, get them into Og Mandino, the greatest salesman in the world, because it's not about selling. It's about attracting like-minded people that have the same needs that every one of us have. So, Wendy, I really appreciate this time we've had together with Lawrence. Do you have any closing thoughts before we open it up?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Lawrence. That this was a breath of fresh air. Even for me, I feel like I was waking up and I would put the news on, and then it would send me spiraling. So my advice is don't do that. I'm getting back to meditating first thing in the morning. And yesterday I did that, and I picked up that phone. I met a wonderful person on LinkedIn, and just business as usual, right? And we love people. We know that what we have is something special, right? And why not share it with everybody? So again, thank you so much, Lawrence, and eat that frog. It's all so true. So, all right. Well, I'll just take all the phones off mute right now. And if we wanted to say thank you to Lawrence, or here we go. And I'm proud. I think, guys, we got the Facebook Live going. I think we did it all this morning, so I'm excited about that too. Here we go. All right, we are all off mute now.
Thank you, Lawrence.
Thanks for the call this morning. It was a great call, and thanks for being such an inspiration, Lawrence.
Yes, Lawrence, thank you. This was great.
Thanks, Barton. Thanks, Jim.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lawrence, Wendy,
Thank
and Tim.
Thank you so much.
God bless everybody. Be safe. Wash your
You
hands.
too.
Thanks, Lawrence.
Bless you, Lawrence.
Okay.
God bless.
God bless everybody. Take care.
Hi, Lawrence.
Bye, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Wendy, for what you guys do.
You're
Thanks,
welcome,
Wendy.
Jim. Thanks for everything.
Thanks, Wendy. Thanks, Kev. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, you too, Kent.
Thanks, Ken.
I can't forget Kent. All right.
No.
Bye, Kent.
Never.
Bye.
Bye.